Greetings out there in YouTube land. This is Morris, man, and as always, I thank you guys for coming to my channel. Today I'm going to do a video per request, and the request comes from one of my subscribers, Jerry. How you doing, Jerry? And thank you for the purchase of the DVDs. I really appreciate it. And the video is going to most likely be entitled, Suggestions on Buying an Acoustic Guitar, because buying an acoustic guitar is totally different from buying an electric guitar. Because as you know, my stance on the electric guitar is it's not that big of an issue about the wood thing, you know, but there's some people that would debate me on that. But when it comes to classical guitars and acoustic guitars, unfortunately, wood does make a bigger difference because the sound is coming through that hole. And that's why, depending on the wood and the construction of the guitar, it's going to sound different. Because it's very different as far as purchasing a classical or acoustic guitar versus an electric guitar. And for me, to pick out electric guitar is not that difficult. You know, I just look for something that's really easy on my hands and has a good tone, and electronics as far as not buzzing, because here's something interesting. The majority of the Fender guitars, they have a tendency when you have them, when you really listen closely, the electronics, I believe it's the second position, it has a tendency to hum. And I've had quite a few of Stratocasters, and most of them hum. But my J Tersers, I turn the knobs, I don't hear no humming at all in the electronics. So that's interesting, especially since the J Terser guitar costs much lesser than the Stratocaster. But getting back to the topic, he wanted to get an idea on, you know, tips on purchasing a acoustic guitar and some of the brands. And here's some of my recommendations, and that's all it is, my recommendations. Acoustic, or should I say Applause, make pretty good guitars. I mean, you can't really go wrong with an Applause. I only actually paid like $60 for this guitar on eBay, and I got the hard shell case with it as well. And as you know, you've seen some of my covers, me playing this, it sounds beautiful. The only thing I don't like about Applause is just the design itself. I really don't care for that flat bottom, that plastic back, but it's a pretty good sounding guitar. And it feels pretty decent to play because they've made some great improvements over the years, because when they first came out, like in the 70s, the neck, believe it or not, was made out of aluminum. And that's not good when you are in situations where you might get shocked, you know. So they quickly got rid of that nonsense because you know, wood, you're not going to get shocked with wood. But my recommendations for acoustic would be an Applause. Also, Ibanez makes some pretty good acoustic guitars for the price. I've played quite a few Ibanez acoustic guitars, and I like them. Also, Oscar Schmidt. And then, and I'm about to mess up the pronunciation on this, but I'll put the name up there on the monitor, Takamine. Takamine makes some of the best, they're Japanese bass company. They make some of the best acoustic guitars I've ever played. I had one that I hated that I sold it, but that thing sounded good and it looked good. It's the model that Toby Keith plays. It's the same model. So those are my recommendations for acoustic. Applause, Ibanez, Takamine, and Oscar Schmidt. You can't go wrong. The prices are pretty reasonable. But again, picking out acoustic guitars is different from electric, because the one thing with the electric guitars is when you get it and you're not too happy about the action, you can quickly adjust the action from here. And if you venturous enough, you can go messing with that neck truss rod, but I never touch that because I'm not a guitar man. When it comes to technical stuff, I'm just a player. But unfortunately, with the acoustic guitars, you don't have that luxury to lower your action. And that's one reason why I really don't play acoustic that much anymore. I play it for songs that call for it, because if the song has it in there, of course I'll play an acoustic guitar with the song, with the acoustic in the song. But I don't play them that much, and that's because of the action issue. Because the majority of the acoustic guitars, the action is slightly high. They're just made that way. Every now and then you might get one that's kind of low, because years ago I found the Oscar Schmidt Classical. I think it's like maybe brand new, it was like $200, about $175 too with tax. And the action was on it, was just incredible. I mean, it felt good. And the tonality was pretty decent. but unfortunately, it was cheaply made because of the metal pieces was kind of protruding, and that's long before I knew anything about sanding it down or taking it to somebody to adjust it. I'm sitting here like an idiot playing it, refusing to just acknowledge that I got to take it back because the metal was sticking out so bad that it was scraping up my hands literally. I had Band-Aids on there still playing. So I ended up having to take it back, and they didn't have another one that was even close to that action. So that's another thing you got to look out for with acoustic guitars. The action is going to be kind of out there, and you might want to take it to somebody to try to lower it down because that's just the standard. It's just out there. But again, wood does make a difference when it comes to acoustic guitars because this is a Cordoba. And this guitar had the electronics in it. It was an electric guitar. And this is my second one. The first one I had, I paid like $600. It was the used one, and it retailed for like $9. And it sounded good. And I had a pardon with it. Then I found another one. I only paid like, I think, $60 because the electronics was out. I didn't need the electronics because for me personally, as a professional guitar player, when I do studio work, I like a microphone with my acoustic guitar. I don't like plugging it in because that sound is extremely thin. So I really don't use the electronics that much anyway. But again, unfortunately, the wood does make a difference in the tonality of acoustic guitars and classical because how you can kind of determine if you don't have a really good acoustic guitar or classical guitar is the tone is not deep and rich. It's usually kind of light and thin, and that's because of the wood. Because again, wood does make a difference when it comes to those, but the electric guitar, not really. So that kind of wraps up that segment as far as Jerry's requests or your request for recommendations for acoustic guitars. Those are the brands that I would go with because I've actually personally played those and I didn't have any problems with them. So he had another question. The other question was, well, I'll just read this out here. He said, I'm kind of like you. I never brought a new guitar from a new guitar. I've always played them used. I did buy into that marketing BS and bought a E335 or 335 Gibson from a friend. I paid $1,200 for it, and I regret that buy. But at least I didn't buy it new for $3,000. And he asked me, what do I think of the Gibsons? To be honest, I don't play that many Gibson guitars. They are known for jazz. They make I think they make some of the best jazz guitars out there. But the reason why I think I didn't play that many Gibsons because, for one, they were just expensive. I mean, back in the day, everybody was struggling, and nobody could jump up and spend $800-900 on a guitar being a teenager or a young guy in his 20s. So we lean more towards Fenders in the neighborhood that I grew up with. But the problem I had with Gibsons is it's the actual physical guitar because when I play my Les Paul, it's heavy and it has a tendency to just start sliding around on my neck when I'm trying to play it. So that becomes a big distraction. And somebody suggested, well, use a guitar strap. And I'm like, well, that might work, but I've never seen a studio musician sitting down, reading and playing with a strap on. Not to say that it doesn't work and it's not a bad thing, but if I got to go through all that trouble, I just get a guitar that I don't have to worry about that at all. And that's why I like the Stratocasters and thin bodies because you can play them in concert comfortably and you can play them in the studio comfortably. Again, the Les Paul that I do have, which was a gift to me, because, again, I'm not one of those go out and spend $2,000 on a guitar guy. No way. It was given to me, and I only really kind of pull out when I'm kind of doing rock tunes because it has a good sustain system. And that's why I think a lot of rock people like Gibsons because of that sustain and distortion. But again, me personally, I play it sparingly because they're too heavy, they're cumbersome, they're sliding all up and down your leg when you're trying to sit down and play them. But, they're not bad guitars by no means. I just personally don't play that many of them. I'm more or less, again, thin body guy. And another question that he had was chord books. Do you have any suggestions on chord books? And I've had this book actually before the internet kind of came around. And it was a good book. And I'll put this information up on the screen. But nowadays, you really don't have to worry about these books anymore because you can go on the internet. And before I say that, I'm going to say this. If you, get this chart, because my DVD #1 comes with this chart, and this is a very important chart to have. If you just focus on the root grips around the E string and the A string. You can play 90% of the stuff on the radio. And for the chords that are not listed here, you can just go on the internet now and type in, you know, D major 7, and it gives you 3 different inversions. And it also, when you hit the button, it gives you the tone. You can hear it. It strums it, and then it picks each string individually. So that's a really good feature nowadays to have, where you don't really have to go out and spend any money on these chord books. Because again, if you purchase DVD #1 and get that chart, 90% of your chords are in that chart, and the other few that aren't, you can go on the internet and just find them, like the D major 7, the 13th chord, some diminished and augmented chords. So hopefully this video has been helpful to you, Jerry, and others out there. And as always, I thank you guys again for coming to my channel. Take care.